Hello, everybody. Welcome to the once again unentitled show that has no name, but it will have a name, and when it has a name, you'll have an intro for it, and that's where you're going to hear it first. But for now, it's another unentitled show starring me, John Maffio, and today, not a lot of news. I took a week off to really evaluate what was happening. I didn't really think there's a lot to talk about, and there still isn't too much to talk about, but we have a lot of little things. There was a D3 announcement from Disney announcing what's going to happen in August and what they're going to be announcing and talking about for their Disney Plus and all that. We also had a Rambo Last Blood trailer, and also DC is skipping Hall H at Comic-Con because Comic-Con doesn't have the prevalence that it seems it used to have. And I've also saw a lot of movies, so I'm going to go over those in a little bit. But first, let's get into the news. Yeah, the first thing of note, the Rambo Last Blood trailer. I'm really late on this, but it's a fine trailer. I liked the Rambo 2008 movie. I liked all the Rambo movies before. It seems like it's going the Logan route, where they saw Logan and they were like, you know what? Hugh Jackman did a great thing for Wolverine there. Let's make Sylvester Stallone come back one more time. Or I guess it was Sly's idea. I'm not sure where the incentive came from. But let's have Sly come back and do this old man thing with Macaulay Culkin setting up traps and booby traps for these unsuspected victims of the drug cartel. It could be really good. It could be okay. I feel like it's coming out in September, and I feel like September could be either or. It's either a really great time for movies. Remember that The Town came out in September. It also could be a little bit of a whimper. I remember Riddick came out in September. It was late August, and that Riddick movie, it's a fine movie, but nobody talks about it anymore. So, not that that really matters for the quality of this movie, but hopefully it actually is worthwhile and actually has consequences and it teaches something of value or note when it releases. We also, again, D23, Disney has a thing every year where they talk about, it's like a con for Disney fans, but there's more with Marvel now and Star Wars and all these properties that they keep buying because Disney is the empire of the world. All hail Mickey Mouse. All hail Mickey Mouse. Give me a paycheck. I don't get a paycheck from Disney, nor did I want one. I'm not gonna be a shill. But yeah, so they basically just confirmed a few things that we're going to be getting announcements for the next phase of Marvel movies. We're also going to be hearing more about streaming with Disney Plus. And is there anything else that I'm forgetting here? Am I forgetting anything else? Oh yeah, and the theme parks, because Galaxy's Edge is out in Disneyland now. We'll be out in Disney World soon, and we'll have more to talk about, I think. I don't want to talk about the Galaxy's Edge, only because I've seen so much about it. What I will say is that I like what I'm seeing from the park and the ideas they have there. The actual land itself is incredibly detailed from the pictures I've seen. I think, apparently, the Millennium Falcon ride, Smuggler's Run, varies on where you are on the ride, if you're an engineer, or if you're a pilot, or if you're a gunner. But the actual details of the ship are incredible, and I can't wait to be there. My only thing is, I'm hearing weird mixed things, and I think it varies on how big of a fan you are and also how big of a fan of theme parks you are. Apparently, a lot of big theme park enthusiasts aren't the biggest fans of the world because they think there's a lack of entertainment and a lot of dead space. But they're also lacking their main attraction, the Resistance ride, which will be out later in the year. So it'll be more of a complete package once that opens. But I mean, from everything I saw, I want to be there right now. But other than that, The Mandalorian, we're probably going to get a trailer for that, and it'll be officially out in public. I guess we'll hear more about the Marvel shows, more about the Black Widow movie, the Eternals movie, stuff like that. So when that actually happens, we'll have a whole big discussion about it. And then also, yeah, Hall H is being skipped by DC. So, there was once upon a time, for those who were younger, where Comic-Con was the big place. San Diego Comic-Con was the place to be if you wanted to market your big movie that was based on a comic book property, or a pop culture property. I still remember when the trailer came out for Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock, and that was the first time I really realized the scope of how big it could be. The biggest though was when they revealed Venom for Spider-Man 3. There's nothing bigger in my lifetime than when they revealed the Venom character of Topher Grace in 2006. Biggest moment of my life then, and still looking back on it now gives me chills. But now I guess Hall H is just kind of, it is what it is. These movies, the superhero movies, are huge now, so there's no need to really go crazy in marketing for it. It's just kind of you could put out a trailer normally, and if the movie's good, it's gonna make money. But you don't need to have a presence at Hall H to be successful financially. And I don't blame DC for skipping out on them. And also a lot of the thing now with trailers that if they get leaked is like sort of like this weird entitlement or demand that they release a trailer in high quality online, because if it's out there in the public, you might as well release it anyway. There's a lot of contributing factors in the 2010s, in the late 2010s now than there ever was back then, where there's more access to things and technology. It's kind of sad, but it also makes sense. You have to adapt as a movie studio, and it's not a bad thing. San Diego Comic-Con is still a staple of entertainment. It's just we're not really going to be getting a lot of those big Hall H things anymore, which is fine by me. But also, I'm not one who used to go every year or any year for that matter, so it has no resonance with me. It doesn't feel I'm not being heartbroken by this news. I go to New York Comic Con every year. The Avengers was there for 2011. I saw most of the cast there. That was great. But it's not the worst thing in the world for me, personally speaking. But yeah, we're gonna talk about some reviews. So if you want to skip ahead, there's a few things I'm going to be talking about. So I will put the time codes down below, and we will get into it. So let's do it. Booksmart, directed by Olivia Wilde. I really like this one a lot. There's a lot of comparisons to Superbad, and I understand the comparisons there, but it also is its own movie. It has its own arcs, and I feel like the arcs are more, what's the word I'm looking for? I feel like it's Superbad. There were underlying tones of what it means when you're best friends with somebody, and college could change a lot of somebody's life, and you don't really feel the repercussions of that right away. I feel like the end of Superbad, you start to feel that separation, like, oh man, they might not see each other for a long time, if ever. In this movie, I feel like they kind of get the eruption of that idea more between the two main female characters, and there's also more of a fleshed out arc between their friendship and their relationship. The party sequences are really well filmed. Olivia Wilde impressed me as a director in this. There's a pool sequence that has been done before. Yeah, I've heard it, but it felt like a short film in itself, and it was really engaging to watch. You're watching and you're like, this is really well shot, and then you're like, ooh, like dramatically speaking, you're like, oh, ah. Billie Lourd, Carrie Fisher's daughter, is great in the movie. She's just a presence to be felt, and she's like Godzilla waiting stamp on your ass. A lot of good music, even though I feel like they're playing the same Run the Jewels song in every movie now, or in every trailer. I'm just hearing that. I'm hearing this one particular song a lot. Whatever. The thing, though, with this movie is that apparently it came and went without making much of an imprint in cinemas, and it's a weird changing landscape right now with indie cinema, that people don't want to spend money to watch movies because they can just watch these movies like this at home. So it didn't really do much financially. I do have confidence that it will gain a big audience over time, which isn't the greatest thing now when you spend money to make a movie and you need to make that money return, and it doesn't happen. It sucks. But talking about the movie on itself, like on its own merits, really good movie. If you enjoy comedies, if you enjoy coming of age stories, you have to see this. So when it comes out on demand, rent that shit. Watch that shit. Support that shit. And yeah, it's a really good movie. Maybe a little overhyped, but still one of the best movies of the year, in my opinion. Rocketman, starring Taron Egerton, is a movie I saw with my family, and I'm glad now they know of Taron's existence, because the dude is a great talent. There's a lot to unpack with this movie, musically speaking, and how it tells the story of Elton John through its music. I was apprehensive about it because the trailers lead you to believe, because Bohemian Rhapsody made a lot of money, so I guess they wanted to market it similarly so people would get their butts in seats, and it wasn't really exactly like that. You have some of the cliches in story beats of Elton John's life. He produced it too, but there's a lot more raw, emotional pieces going on here, and it resonates more as a movie than Bohemian Rhapsody by tenfold. I think there's a lot more going on with the characters in this movie based on real people. Obviously, it's Elton John's movie, and Elton John wasn't afraid to delve into the darker side of his life and it's nice. It's also cruel, and it could be really dark, and it could leave you could leave the movie feeling a little depressed because of how he was treated for a lot of his life through his fame and fortune. But Taron does a really good job of riding that line of being a little funny, but also being a little sad, and conveying emotions in a way where it's very heartfelt. And there's a nice cohesion for the most part with the movie, where he's basically, I'm not spoiling anything, but he's in therapy and he's telling the story of his life through his music a lot. And you get these musical sequences with his songs that are also progressing the story forward. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed how these musical set pieces were ginormous and sometimes really intimate, but they were always pushing the story forward. And it let the pacing flow out nicely. And of course, if you're a fan of Elton John, it's gonna help a lot because all of his hits are there. Even there are songs I forgot that he wrote and created where I was like, that song, yeah, yeah. But they're so grandiose, and then also sometimes it's just like Tiny Dancer was one of my favorite sequences in the movie because of how intimate it was. And I almost cried. But yes, I really enjoyed Rocketman a lot. If you're a fan of Elton John, you have to see this. I wouldn't say you don't have to rush out to see it in theaters, but you're gonna have a good time if you do, especially with an audience. It is a little dark, but when it's fun, it is fun. There is a lot more complexity going on with the whole story though. In this, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Do 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 do. I've had the beat that theme in my head for the last few days. I saw this movie in IMAX. I feel like you can't see a Godzilla movie in anything but this format because of the scope and scale of these larger than life titans. And I really enjoyed this movie. I know it's been getting its criticisms, but I think this handles the human side of the story better than the Gareth Edwards movie from 2014. And I really liked the Gareth Edwards movie, but I haven't seen it since 2014, so that probably says something about the movie that I haven't seen it in 5 years. 5 years? Anyway, before I get lost in the existential crisis of time and how fast it goes, Michael Dougherty, how do you say his name? Anyway, yes, he directed Trick or Treat, Krampus, he's a big horror buff, and I think he brings his sensibilities over into this movie awesomely, and I think the way these titans, these giant monsters, are blended into the world is really a spectacle and awe-inspiring. It's also pretty horrifying with King Ghidorah. I think Rodan looked really cool. Mothra looked really cool when they're all fighting. It's just the special effects on display mostly look really good. There are a couple times where it could have been a little more. It is a little cartoony. It might take you out of it. But I really liked all the action sequences with all these monsters. The human side, you have a freaking ginormous cast of people that you definitely, if you don't know them, you definitely have seen them before in a commercial for something or in a movie somewhere somehow. Millie Bobby Brown, I feel like she was cast because she's such a great dynamic actor of emotions, so she conveys that throughout the whole movie because of her situation with her parents in the movie, and it works. Vera Farmiga and Kyle Chandler are really good in the movie, even though there are flaws in that storyline. I think I was more engaged in that than, again, I was with Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen in the first movie. The way they connect, basically the connective tissue of these two movies is Ken Watanabe and Sally Hawkins, and without giving anything away, I was disappointed by the way they handled that connective tissue, but I guess it made, in the way the story was progressed, I can't be too angry about it. There was one particular thing that confused me, and I got clarification, but it was also kind of underwhelming. But other than that, that's like my biggest flaw of the movie. As I speak about it, is that I wish there was more connective tissue between these two movies, besides the fact that, the battle in San Francisco affected the world in many ways. Well, yeah, of course it did. And then the usual, yeah. There's a lot of people who are saying this is a bad movie, and I don't blame people for saying it's a bad movie, but I think it does exactly what it sets out to do, and being a monster movie, and also there are humans there. Because you're going to have a human story whether you like it or not. They can, but it makes more sense to make a movie with a cast of human characters alongside these monsters fighting each other and destroying city landscapes and blazing forward atomic breath paths. And for what they do, they're just a conduit. These these human characters are a conduit to getting us to these sequences. And it wasn't baffling or annoying or frustrating for me. It was a pretty engaging watch from beginning to end. And they don't do any really blatant setup for Godzilla versus Kong besides mentioning Kong and Skull Island a couple times. But I am excited to see what they do and see what Adam Wingard does, even though Adam Wingard is kind of on the low right now with the pink slips because of Death Note. I'm still excited to see what he does with the movie, and I think it's hard to go wrong with a movie about Godzilla and King Kong fighting each other and probably fighting against another force, which goes into spoiler territory. But the ideas that I have in my head for where they're going with the story, it seems, I'm down with it. And I'm not excited per se, but I'm interested, which isn't a bad thing. And I think if you're a fan of Godzilla, you should at least go check this out. Because I feel like it's not going to do it justice if you watch it on a TV at home. While it's in theaters, go see it and support this movie. I would say support this. Because not to say that Warner Brothers is going to be bought out by Disney anytime soon, but they're the only real big competitive studio now that Disney has bought Fox. And they bought everything else. So I kind of want to support Warner Brothers blockbusters, even though they haven't had a great track record. The Harry Potter prequels. But what they're doing here, they weren't afraid to get a little wacky. And I thought it was fun. Dark Phoenix. Without the X-Men in the title, they actually omitted the X-Men and just called it Dark Phoenix. It's the second time they're handling the story in the X-Men universe of cinematic movies. The first time was Last Stand, and I saw that in theaters, and it was a really hyped movie for me, and I enjoyed it when I saw it in theaters, but I don't feel the same way today. I don't think it's a terrible movie. It has really good moments, but compared to the first two X-Men movies, no. And especially nowadays with Matthew Vaughn's First Class, Days of Future Past, Logan, Deadpool, the quality has been pretty darn high. So when it falls short of that quality, it could be massively disappointing. And if you're on the internet space, you've seen that people have been very disappointed with this movie or downright hate this movie because they think it's terrible. And I think there was a little bit of a mob mentality with this movie that people were going in looking to be negative about it. And it happens sometimes in movies. I remember a couple years ago with Amazing Spider-Man 2, I feel like it was the same thing. I'm not saying it's a good movie, but I feel like critics were going in ready to just write these big think pieces and write these rants because they wanted to get the clicks and to get the bait and just unleash anger because they had some inner turmoil from some memory in their mind of being bullied or something. There's always something, but now I'm getting too deep into this. I just think people were going into this looking to hate it, and I see why. There's a lot of qualities of this film. There's a lot of assets to this movie that aren't handled properly or well. But regardless, I enjoyed myself in the theater. I think there are some really good performances. I think when they have the first-class actors together, like Nicholas Hoult, who goes so hard in this movie with his performance that he didn't have to go that hard, but he does. James McAvoy is always good. Michael Fassbender. The only person from the First Class cast that I didn't care for was Jennifer Lawrence, because you could tell right out the gate in every scene she's in, for the most part, that she's just there to collect a paycheck, and that's really it. She's not invested anymore. And I get if you're not invested, I get that, but you're still going to work and you still have to perform. But that's, I don't know. I'm not in Jennifer Lawrence's head. I don't know what she's thinking on a day-to-day basis. Maybe just something I'm not seeing. It's just, it was really blatant, and I'm the person who's always optimistic for movies, and I'm always looking to be optimistic. But when I'm not optimistic and I'm being pessimistic, there's a problem. And I'm not saying this is pessimistic, but Jennifer Lawrence wasn't trying at all in this movie, at all. There's one scene that's outside with Jean Grey, with her the way she was delivering her dialogue. It was actually the worst thing I've seen this year in terms of delivering dialogue. it was cringeworthy, and I was like, please, just the scene, please just end right now. But Sophie Turner is great as Jean Grey. People had a problem with Jessica Chastain as the antagonist, and I don't have a problem with how she, like, it's very underwhelming, like who her character is and the motivations and how she proceeds with the performance. However, I think given what she was told to do, she does a pretty good job. I think there are some really cool action sequences. Whenever there's something that's practical in a movie, I flip out. I go crazy. And there's a certain sequence with a subway car in New York that reminded me of Skyfall in a way. Just it was like this little moment that made me giddy because I'm like, that was really cool. I want to see more stuff like that in our big blockbuster movies because I wasn't expecting this little thing to happen in this blockbuster movie full of CGI. What else? The music's really good because Hans Zimmer composed it. I think there are some elements that carry over from previous movies that do work. I think if you're a fan of X-Men, there are qualities that you will enjoy. But I could see if you're just coming into here and just watching this as a movie because you want to watch a movie to be entertained, how you could come out feeling a type of way, emotionally speaking, negatively speaking. I get it. I really do. This is the last movie in the X-Men run for Fox because now the rights are going to be turned over to Disney. And if they decide to do something with the X-Men, of course they're going to do something with the X-Men. Just a matter of how long it's going to take. I think they could have had a lot better of a movie. Definitely could have been a way better movie. Way better. For a franchise that's been around for over almost 20 years, this is the last movie with these characters. And for this particular cast, 7 or 8 years, it's a little sad. But I think there have been worse cases, worse situations. And I think in time, we will appreciate certain things about the characters in these movies, the actors that we had in the era of this first-class cast, and even the cast from back in the day with, can't speak his name, but the Hugh Jackmans of the world, the Patrick Stewarts, the Ian McKellens, the Famke Jansson, so on, blah, 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 blah. I was going to say James Marsden, but I lost my train of thought. But yeah, Dark Phoenix. It's a fine movie. I think if you're a fan of X-Men, you have to watch. I think you should watch this. I keep saying you have to, but you don't. I'm not the one who's nurturing your decision making here. But I feel like you're missing out if you don't watch this. If you've been watching these X-Men movies for all this time, if you're not an X-Men fan, it's fine. Just let this movie be and just wait until Disney does something with Marvel Studios. But if you've been watching these movies, if you've been invested in these characters and the story, even if you don't like it, I feel like you should at least give it a shot. Maybe don't spend $15 on it, but definitely when it comes out, at least just see like how the story unfolds. Don't turn it away just because of what you're hearing. Always judge on your own opinion. It's okay to let people in with their critiques in order to give yourself an idea of whether or not you should watch a movie, but you should still also have an open mind. That's all. That's it. I came out pleasantly surprised in ways, but also understanding why people feel the way they feel. That's it. And that is it for today's video. If you enjoyed all this and you're still around after all this time, thank you for watching. If you're not subscribed to this channel, don't forget to subscribe if you want. Ring that bell if you want so you get notifications for these videos every time I make a new video, so on and so forth. And leave a like. And also, what I really want is for you to leave a comment so we can have a discussion down below about anything we talked about today, any of the reviews, any of the discussions. Kind of light. Nothing really significant going on yet. I guess Rambo, D23, Hall H. There are things happening, but I feel like in the grand scheme of things, there have been bigger announcements. And that's partially why I took a week off list, because I feel like there wasn't too much to talk about. And there still isn't too much to talk about, but I saw a lot of movies. I wanted to talk about that. So yes, thank you for watching. Given there is news to talk about and movies that I have seen, I will be back next week with another video. Hopefully there will be a actual intro this time. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. But when it happens, you're going to have an intro first. So it's going to be like what they've been doing with like Endgame and Star Wars, where you're not going to know the title like the subtitle or the title, whatever, until you see it like unfold for you, and you'll be like, either wow, he waited all this time just to make it that, or you'll be like, I get why he took a while to actually decide on a name for his little podcast show. And the rest will be history. If there is history. Unless I burn it down. Like Kylo Ren. And his little band of knights. The Knights of the Round Table. Arthur. Sword in the Stone. I will stop now. Have a good day. Love you all. Why am I moving my head like this?